Well, hey there, class. I know you're all real excited to get to today's lesson in which we cover the top 10 blue commander cards that you probably didn't know existed, but which cost only 1 mana to cast. But before we do, I want to rap with you about something that's just as cool as playing Commander with your friends, and that is paying attention in class. Now, it has come to the school board's attention that many of you are not paying attention in class and are instead listening to your mad fat beats on these. Raycon's E25 earbuds, sponsor of this video, and, if I may say so, a plague upon student attentiveness throughout the college. So I was sent in here to talk to you today since I'm highly relatable due to the fact that I'm wearing a punk/alternative t-shirt. So that means you can trust me when I say that while it indeed might be radical to go to buyraycon.com/Tolarian community to save 15% off your next order by clicking on the special link in the description box below, that you should do so for personal enjoyment outside of the classroom only. Sure, the E25s are some of the highest quality yet lowest priced earbuds on the market, with 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, and awesome bass for when you're listening to that obscenity-laden rap music or just a podcast that's 6 hours of a grown man discussing at length whether Garrison Cat is a better pick than Flourishing Fox. So if you do go to buyraycon.com/Tolarian community to save 15% off your next order and choose from a variety of cool colors and hella sick styles, and also help support the channel when you do so, know that if I see any in class, they will be confiscated, and I'm gonna keep them. In Commander, more so than any other format, finding low mana spells that can have an impact on the game is one of the greatest tools to have in your belt. How miserable is a turn where you drop a land and pass? Or drop a land, cast a spell, and then can't respond to anything anyone else is doing after you pass your turn. That's why low-cost spells are so important in Commander, as they can be cast early game when you have little mana or late game in conjunction with other spells. We've looked at white and black already, but now let's examine 1 mana spells in blue that you probably didn't know existed for Commander. Although the Commander format is constantly evolving, one thing remains true. Tribal decks are incredibly popular and powerful, so consider artificial evolution for your deck. This instant lets you change the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one creature type with another. The new creature type can't be wall, and the change is permanent, not just till end of turn. This rare from Onslaught is dirt cheap and will be a nasty surprise for any tribal deck that is relying too heavily on tribal synergy to push through to victory. Is your opponent feeling safe and secure from any global removal spells just because they have a Sliver Hive Lord, giving all their slivers indestructible? Make Sliver Hive Lord give all their goats indestructible instead. And since artificial evolution is an instant, this can be an unpleasant surprise in the middle of combat. Or if someone's cast Rite of Replication with Kicker targeting their Reaper King, rewrite Reaper King's text to read Goat instead of Scarecrow, and you're golden. You can also shut down Winota, Joiner of Forces, by replacing human with, say, Starfish. Artificial evolution can even play a more proactive role in your decks if you're building around some of the Bonder themes from Ikoria, centering on humans and non-humans working together. If you draw a Wingspanned Mentor after someone has wiped the battlefield with Wrath of God, you can change the card text to say non-goat and give itself a flying counter. Moving on, aren't you glad I didn't keep you waiting too long for the next card on the list? It's Aura Finesse. From Rise of the Eldrazi, Aura Finesse is another instant, and it lets you attach target aura you control to target creature, and then you get to draw a card. Wizards of the Coast has designed some cool commanders lately that care about enchantments, such as Tuvasa the Sunlit, Alila Artful Provocateur, and Eutropia the Twice Favored. And if you lean heavily on Aura's synergies, Aura Finesse fits right in. Say you've already locked a problem card away with Imprisoned in the Moon and someone plays something far scarier. Use Aura Finesse to move Imprisoned in the Moon over to Muldrotha the Gravetide and feel the tension leave everybody's body as the crisis is averted. Bear Umbra is a great aura to have on one of your creatures. It reads, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has, whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. It also has Totem Armor, which protects the enchanted creature from being destroyed. So what if an opponent tries to exile that creature with Swords to Plowshares? Use Aura Finesse to move it to another creature and draw a card for your trouble. Since Aura Finesse can move the aura to any creature, you can even move Bear Umbra over to a creature your opponent controls to give them the extra power and toughness boost, while you get the benefit of untapping all lands you control. That could be an alliance where everyone wins, except for your other opponents, and of course the opponent you allied with when you inevitably betray them. Next, it's high time to consider putting Clock Spinning in your commander decks. This Time Spiral instant lets you choose a counter on target permanent or suspended card. Remove that counter from that permanent or card, or put another of those counters on it. It has a fairly cheap buyback cost for just 3 generic mana, so it's going to be easy to use this throughout a game of Commander. In the past, outside of decks with a lot of suspend cards, such as Joyra of the Gitu, Clock Spinning was only good for doing small shenanigans with +1/+1 or charge counters. But with the release of Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths in Commander 2020, Magic has entered a new era of ability counters, and being able to add or subtract them at instant speed is going to lead to some epic surprises. If someone is counting on the lifelink counter they put on Lord of Extinction with Duskfang Mentor to keep them in the game, Clock Spinning can remind them that their time is up. If you're playing the efficient beatdown creature Hunted Nightmare, you can use Clock Spinning to remove the Death Touch counter you had to put on a creature an opponent controlled. If Luminous Broodmoth has brought a creature you control back to life with a flying counter, and it's going to die again, use Clock Spinning to remove the counter so it can be brought back again. There are some other counters you'd have an interest in trimming off permanents you control. Netherborn Altar is a sweet card that lets you tap to put a soul counter on it to put your commander into your hand from the command zone. Then you lose 3 life for each soul counter on Netherborn Altar. You can use Clock Spinning to keep those soul counters from accumulating too much. And don't forget, cards with cumulative upkeeps use age counters, so you can use Clock Spinning to keep the upkeep cost of Glacial Chasm from getting higher than 2 life. Next up, even though your opponents will only appreciate it about as much as socks for a Christmas gift, you'll be happy to have Gift of Tusks at the ready in our post-Ikoria world. Have you seen a questing beast mutated into Brocus, Apex of Forever? I have, and friends, let me tell you, it is frightening. The card text goes on for days and days. If you have a Gift of Tusks handy, you can simply remove all the scary abilities, turn it into a 3/3 elephant, block and kill it with a few 2/2 drakes you have lying about, and move on with your life. And the thing about people playing Mutate cards, they don't stop with just one. They'll build up some huge monstrosity, adding to Questing Beast and Brokos with Gem Razor and Migratory Greathorn and Sea Dasher Octopus. It's when they go for the X is the number of times this creature is mutated, like on Auspicious Starix, that you need to put your foot down with Gift of Tusks and just say no. Now, for this next card, I'm calling out to all my merfolk comrades. Don't forget about Mistcaller. This 1/1 from Core Set 2019 can provide some nice tribal synergies in your merfolk or wizard deck until someone wants to do something broken in Commander and ruin everyone's fun. You can sacrifice Mistcaller and, until end of turn, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Cauldron of Souls can break the symmetry of a battlefield sweeper by giving one player's creatures persist. Command the Dreadhorde can bring back several nasty creatures back from anyone's graveyard. Or someone's got a hard-to-deal-with commander like Sigarda, Host of Herons, which has hexproof and is backed up by Nim Deathmantle to bring it back from the graveyard if it dies. The very threat of activating Mistcaller in response to these can put a serious kink into their master plan, which means you often don't need to sacrifice it for it to do good work. Looking forward to our next card, Future Sight was chock full of weird and mystifying spells, including Mystic Speculation. Scry is an often overlooked ability in Commander given the variability of the singleton format and 99 card decks. It's quite helpful to be able to put situational cards to the bottom of your deck when you don't need them in the hopes of drawing into ones that are more useful. Scry 3 is quite a deep look at the top of your library, but isn't necessarily worth burning a card on, so what makes Mystic Speculation worth considering is its very cheap buyback cost of just 2 generic mana. Knowing what's coming up can be worth the 3 mana under the normal course of the game, but it gets even more powerful when combined with cards that care about the top of your library. Help rig the game in your favor when you play Artis, Oracle of Half-Truths, or activate the +1 loyalty ability of Tameo, Collector of Tales. Always play a land from the top of your library with Courser of Kruphix or Oracle of Moldaya, assuming they ever reprint it, which I don't think they will, so Kruphix. But you get my point, whether it's Keenan Bonder Prodigy, and Amatu the Fates Shifter, or Yuriko Tiger's Shadow. Having Scry with buyback can create both great synergy and a mana dump for late game. Next, Commander players have often known the advantages of mechanics like Shadow and Horsemanship, but this little one-cost instant might just cause a rift in your playgroup, and that's Shadow Rift. Not only does it give target creature Shadow until end of turn, but the instant even draws you a card, making it extremely worthwhile with that replacement effect. Whether you've mutated a cold-eyed Selkie into Brokos Apex Predator, or just strapped up a creature with a couple swords, Shadow Rift is a great way to make sure they get through. And since you don't have to target your own creature, it can be used to make political deals with other players at the board. So whether it's wreaking havoc or ending games unexpectedly, Shadow Rift is a great addition for a lot of decks. Now, knowledge is power, whether in life or whether playing a children's cardboard game. And spying on a bunch of cards you have no business knowing about is going to give you a ton of knowledge. So for our next card, why don't you consider building a Spy Network? Spy Network will let you look at target player's hand, as well as the top card of their library, as well as any face-down creatures he or she controls. And then look at the top 4 cards of your library, putting them back in any order. While Magic's deep thinkers might say that this card doesn't do anything, I would argue it's a card that does quite a lot. As mentioned before when we were talking about Mystic Speculation, there are going to be times when adjusting the top of your deck will make all the difference in how your turn plays out. But what if you're about to do a big combo win and need to ensure that another player doesn't have a counterspell or answer waiting to ruin your plans? Spy Network lets you scout things out. This card was originally printed during Onslaught, where the morph mechanic first showed up, which explains why there's the ability to peek at any face-down creatures that your opponents control. But morph strategies in Commander got renewed thanks to 2019's Kadena Slinking Sorcerer. This is an incredibly powerful commander for Morph, Megamorph, and Manifest. And even if your opponent is not on Kadena, you're likely going to find instances where being able to peek underneath a face-down card is extremely helpful. And that's where Spy Network comes in. But what about a card that's helpful for keeping your permanents under control? Well, turn aside any removal with Turnaside. Turnaside is a single blue to counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. While Commander games are often defined by crucial battlefield sweepers like Supreme Verdict or Blasphemous Act, most decks play a fair number of pinpoint removal spells like Swords to Plowshares or Beast Within that can deal with a single problematic permanent that needs to be removed without destroying your own battlefield battlefield presence. So whether it's just a big bad scary or some monstrous monstrosity that you've mutated, if your opponents try and terminate your threat or give you a gift of tusks, remind them you're playing blue too with Turn Aside. What's great is that Turn Aside works for anything that's targeting a permanent you control. So it can offer protection for creatures like Laboratory Maniac, but also just things like Helix Pinnacle. A single blue to give permanents controlled by you the protection you need. Turn Aside is unexpected and unexpectedly efficient. Finally, you're going to want to polish up your evil laughter skills before playing this next card. The villainous Whim of Volrath from the Tempest expansion. Oh, I love buyback, especially on a card that lets you change the text of target permanent by replacing all instances of one color word or basic land type with another until end of turn. So not only can this spell be a great one-shot surprise, but with a cheap buyback, you're very likely to get multiple uses out of it. Say your opponent has a Cabal Coffers in play, with the potential of generating an obscene amount of black mana, and you just know they're itching to play Exsanguinate or Torment of Hailfire. For just 3 mana on each of their upkeeps, you can rewrite it to say Forest instead. Or let's say you've got a creature with Landwalk that you want to make it through, but your opponent doesn't have the type of lands necessary. Well, now they will. Turn forests into islands and walk on by. Do you have an Animar, Soul of Elements in play, to which your opponent has swung in with Kogla, Titan Ape? Just use Whim of Volrath to change Animar's protection from white to protection from green and block with confidence. The early days of Magic had some powerful color hosers you could incorporate into your deck and edit them into whatever you might be facing at your table. A card like Gloom could be edited to tax green spells or enchantment abilities by an extra 3 mana until end of the turn. Remember, you're buying this back. You could edit your Life Force to be able to counter any color rather than just black. Light of Day's ability that black creatures can't attack or block can be modified for whatever color the most threatening creature is during the turn. Or just a classic Circle of Protection adjusted as you need it. This is where having to recast it each turn actually comes in handy, because you might need to adjust that circle depending on which opponent is giving you which trouble. Either way, this is a card that you are going to want to consider to run with more than just a whim. I hope very much this lesson was informative for you. If it was, it means you paid attention by not listening to your favorite music or podcasts on your E25 earbuds that you got from going to buyraycon.com/Tolarian community, sponsor of this video. I'm proud of you for understanding how to separate your academic life from your personal choice of enjoyment, listening, pleasure. It's as cool as your professors.